here we go. Can everybody hear me okay? A little louder than this? How's that? Better? Okay. So I'm Helena, and this is Carie, and welcome to Living Personas, a hands-on accessibility experience.
I am Carie Fisher, and I am a accessibility lead and front-end developer at Hook 42. It's my giant face. Oh, and you can find us on these little spots here.
And I'm Helena McCabe. I'm a senior front-end developer and accessibility specialist at Lullaby. Oh, and we specialize in making the web awesome for everyone using Drupal. We're a development, design, and strategy company.
All right, so today we're going to talk about website accessibility. And if you're in this room, you've probably heard about the term by now, but what does it actually mean? Simply stated, website accessibility is making sure your website is able to be used by as many people as possible. So if you're talking about statistics, about 19% of the US population identifies with having a disability. So if you put that into real numbers, that's roughly $57 million people. But if you think of those numbers a little bit differently, there are more people with disabilities than twice the number of people living in the state of New York. If you consider a global audience, you are talking about 15% of the population, or 1 billion people. So that's 18 times the number of people living in the state of New York. So that's a huge number of people who could benefit from having an accessible website right away. But keep in mind, the official numbers don't even consider the people who don't consider themselves having a disability. So you could have, you could be slightly hard of hearing, you could be losing part of your eyesight, you could have a temporary disability, a lot of things that we'll cover today, and those aren't even covered. So potentially you'll have more than 1 billion people who could benefit from having an accessible website. We talk also about English as a second language a little bit, aging population. So in reality, the people needing accessible websites could be much higher.
So I'm going to give you a little starter just in case you're new to accessibility. We have something in the WCAG guidelines, and it's called POUR, because hard and fast rules and checkboxes don't work that well for people with disabilities, because people with disabilities are diverse human beings. So we can't say, if you do these 20 things, your site will be fine for everyone. So instead what we have are guidelines, and those are the POUR guidelines. So it's kind of funny to think, but your site should be built poorly. And the first guideline, the P, is for perceivable. So you want to ask yourself if your user can get the information on your website into their head using one of their senses. So it cannot be invisible to all of your user senses. Now, if you have a blind user, they need to be able to get all of your content without being able to see. Examples include adding text alternatives to non-decorative images, adding captions and transcripts to videos, making sure color isn't the only thing that conveys meaning. You know, if you say, click the orange button, and someone can't see the color orange, they have no idea what to click. So it's good to be mindful that not everyone comes with the same set of abilities.
So the second one here, the category is operable, so PO. Users must be able to operate the interface. So that interface cannot require interaction that a user cannot perform. So an example is keyboard-only navigation. So if you can't require someone to have to use a mouse or a touch screen to use your site, they should also be able to access the information with a keyboard. If you have slideshows, first of all, you don't need them, but if you have them, make sure that all the controls are shown, making sure that users have the ability to navigate on their own, to not auto-rotate, just some things to consider. Also making sure to have enough time to fill out a form. A lot of these forms have timeouts, so if you're halfway through a form, but you have a disability and you get about halfway, it times out, erases all the answers, and you have to go back to the start. It's not very nice. People kind of get upset about that too.
The next principle is understandable. I mean, assuming that your user has gotten the content into their head from the computer and they can operate the site, none of that is helpful if they don't understand the content that they're absorbing. So we also want our content to be understandable. They need to be able to understand the information they're receiving as well as the interface so that they can understand how to use your website. That should all be very clear. Examples include, if you're writing content at a 9th grade reading level, don't use a $10 word if you can use a $1 word. You don't know if someone's second language is English and they need to pay their bill quick or something like that. So, try to keep things as simple and as expected as possible.
The last category here is robust. So it means that a user can access the content as technologies advance. So as the browser, you get a new version of a browser or a new version of a screen reader, you want to make sure that your content remains accessible. We kind of argue a little bit whether this is the easiest or the hardest, and I think it's a little bit of both. Initially, it's difficult to get your site exactly how you want it accessible and beautiful and all the things that you want, all robust. But it's also, the next step is maintaining that, right? So you have to do sprint regression testing, you have to do feature regression testing, you have to do retesting just in general with accessibility as your website matures and evolves, as you add new content and new things to your website. So this is one of those that, yeah, it could be easy to get it there in the first place, but you need to make sure that you keep it there. So it's important that in general, just as that your website is perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. These are all successful criteria for having a user experience that provides optimal usability for everybody.
So what we're doing today, we've done a lot of different accessibility sessions, and a lot of the time you come in and you hear about these things. But today we decided to kind of turn it on its head. So instead we made some user personas that you can connect with. And a persona is a representation of a type of customer. They answer the question, who are we designing and developing for? And they help to align strategy and goals to specific user groups. It can be formal or informal, it can be on paper, it can be on stage. It's very important when you're planning a new website to keep people of varying backgrounds, ethnicities, genders, technical abilities in your mind and as part of your personas, so that you're working toward meeting a realistic variety of perspectives and needs. And with that, we will bring you to our first persona.
First, we're gonna...
Oh, right, yeah.
First, we're wanting hopefully volunteers for the fabulous prizes, and who wants to be Edward? All right, you're Edward.
Yes.
We have Melissa. Melissa is Melissa. All right, come on back row here. Isaiah and Farah. I know you guys want to do this. All right,
Yes.
you want to be...
Carla do it. I think Mark wants to be Farah.
I'll be Farah.
You can be Farah?
I'm not gonna judge that. All right, so just be ready for when it's your time. So Isaiah, if you could come up.
Come on up, Isaiah.
Oh, I have to move?
Oh my
It's going to be fun. Oh.
Fabulous prizes, people. Okay, so just a quick note again about personas that we're going through today. They're completely fictitious. These aren't real people, but these are personas that are meant to represent a person in the community. In this particular community today, we're going to talk about next is Isaiah. So Tobias, you can just wear your name tag. You're Isaiah today, if you need help with that.
I kind of afraid of the name.
So Isaiah is deaf, but he actually doesn't see being deaf as a disability. He considers it a culture like a lot of deaf people do. He attends a deaf high school and his primary language is ASL. And being deaf hasn't slowed you down at all. You're 13 years old and you may be young, but you're already a whiz on the computer. You build websites in your spare time and you're part of the school's robotics club. You're pretty much a rock star. And you're hoping for your team to win the nationals this year, but a lot of the tutorials that you found online are hard for you to understand because the instructions aren't subtitled. So you want to learn how to build a robot, and so you go to YouTube and you can't figure it out. So that's what we're going to demo today.
All right, so let's get Isaiah here. Oh no, it broke everything. Oh, here we go. All right, so here is your video. You need to make your robot for a robotics club. And what are these components that you need to buy?
You can answer in English instead of sign language.
If the information is in the video, I can't get it right now because I can't hear it.
Exactly.
And there's nothing on the screen to tell me what it is.
So now what we're going to do,
a soldering iron, and a glue gun. Start by straightening out 2 paper clips, and then slip them into the straight connectors and solder them in.
okay,
To
so
make
now,
a beetlebot, the first thing you'll need to do is collect all your materials. Here's everything you'll need to make your beetlebot.
well, it doesn't help you, but the point is, there's a lot of information missing that you did not have access to.
Yeah.
So now let's try this for Isaiah.
To make a beetlebot, the first thing you'll need to do is collect all your materials. Here's everything you'll need to make your beetlebot. 3 paper clips, 2 small DC motors, a AA battery pack for 2 batteries, a couple spade connectors, a piece of bendable sheet metal, some shrink wrap tubing, solder, electric wire, 2 momentary switches, a small bead, plus a few tools like small screwdrivers.
Are you feeling a little bit better now?
Yes, I think by context I can figure out what those things are. Like if the wood is slightly wrong.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what we're going to show, so thank you, Isaiah. That's all. Yay. For him. So what we're going to show you today is that, how do you add captioning? YouTube and other places like that, Vimeo and all the other ones, like they have auto captioning, but a lot of times people call them auto craptioning. Sorry to cuss there, but like that, because they're really crappy, and like they'll kind of like, we can see like it said something like a sweet sheet metal or something. I don't think he said sweet, but these are the automatic ones, so this is why that one didn't work. Let's see if I can give it my mouse here. So actually she signed in right now as the Accessibility Talks website, and so what we're doing here is I'm going to show you the Creator Studio. So once you have a YouTube account, you'll have this Creator Studio. So you can see these are some other websites. If you guys want to come back and see some of these presentations, Damien and a few others have given presentations over the years. But for this one, we're just going to see this one, right? I made an accessibility snippet. It's just me kind of chatting here, so it's not that exciting. But what I'm showing here today is how you add your subtitles. So again, if you can just go automatic. And automatic does help, but it's not as good as if you added your own. So it's really easy. You just go to the tab right here where it says Subtitles CC. You can add new subtitles. I've learned this just recently. You can choose English, or you can choose a different language if you're adding a new language. But we're just doing English. So it says, yep, we want to override it. And so there's a couple of different ways to do it. I don't want this to play. Hopefully it won't automatically. But you can upload a file. So if you already have a transcript ready, and in my case, like if I'm doing a script, if I've already kind of pre-written out something, I kind of already have that at least the initial information. So I could just upload a file, and what it takes is just like a text file or like a Word. There's a couple of different options. Or if you're like want to do it on the fly, you can transcribe and auto sync as it goes. We can show that one real quick. That won't be that one because it doesn't like that. All right, we can just take a look. So this is what automatically happens when YouTube does it. It does it right here on the side. I can choose the action to download or whatever, but if I want to edit it, you can just press the edit. You can override it. I've kind of done this a couple of times here. But basically it says it's going to sync it up with the video. It says, hello everyone, my name is Carie Fisher. If you know me, then you know I have 1 R instead of 2 R's, so like I can change that. And the other thing that auto captioning also does is that it doesn't do any punctuation. So if I play this, but hopefully mute it, you can see me talking or whatever. But it's like, it doesn't, it's just like CSS class focus as you would, or the hover. And so it's like this run-on sentence, and people don't know where the pauses are, where the inflections are, or anything like that. So this is a way you can just change it on the fly. Words, you know. So you can do things like that, and then you save it. It's kind of easy, but it's very time consuming. So either you can pay somebody to do this for you, which there are a lot of services for, or you can go through and you can edit it by hand, or you can upload a file.
One minor question.
Sure.
If you have somebody else do it for you, is there a way of giving them access to just edit one video, or do you
Yes.
share their...
Nope, you can just, it's one video, and what you do is you send them a URL to either a private video if you don't have it going live yet, or if it's already live, you just send it that. And what they bring back is like a transcript in a text file or some sort of formatted file like that, a rich text file. And so you can just upload it. And you do like something similar like this where you can go through and edit it, be like, okay, no, actually Damien spelled this way, or I talked about this like, you know, very specific Drupal thing that they totally got wrong. It's kind of funny, actually, some things.
In the text file, do you have to format the timestamps?
Nope, it syncs it up for you automatically. The only caveat to that is that it takes some time to process. So once you upload your file, it'll just take a little bit of time. So
just to confirm, if you have a script and you just upload the script, that's all you really need
yeah,
to do?
that's all you really need to do, and it'll sync it up for you, and then you can go back and right before you go live, just double check that it matches up. But if I played this and it kind of looked odd or something, or if I pause longer or something, sometimes it does not like 100% correct. But anyway, we'll keep moving on our demos, but there's a few options there.
All right, so it looks like we...
Yep, so just recapping here, these are the things that we can do. Just make sure hand captioning is best. Auto captioning is kind of crappy, but it's better than nothing. So all you have to do is check the box to caption for your video. That's all you have to do for that part. So.
All right. Oh, and we'll touch on transcripts and captions, the difference really quickly. Transcripts contain text of visual actions. It's usually one block of text that can be accessed. That really benefits like the deafblind. Whereas captions are in time with the video and they benefit the deaf primarily. So our next persona is Farah Ali. She's a sysadmin.
So that's you, Mark.
Come on up, Farah.
I passed it off.
Oh,
All right.
sorry. All right, Farah. Did you give to my assistant?
I did.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Fabulous prizes. No, we're glad that you guys are all participating with us. It's kind of fun.
I know, we were worried we were going to have to take people by force, so we're glad that you're here. This is Farah, and she is a sysadmin for a well-known company. The systems she maintains are crucial to keeping her company's services running, and she has a lot of team members who she ends up supporting throughout the day. She's everybody's go-to to put out a technical fire when anything goes down unexpectedly, as most sysadmins are. She's always been dedicated to her physical fitness, and she played left forward on her college soccer team. It made it all the more of a blow when she was diagnosed with the early onset of Parkinson's last year. Losing her fine motor skills to tremors is making it increasingly more difficult for her to use a mouse, and she's been steadily relying on the keyboard more and more to navigate the web. So demo time. Oh, wait, no, go back. I got too excited. Okay.
All right, so today, I mean, this is a hard one to simulate, but basically we're going to do, okay, to people who are from the South, these are actually mittens. you put them on your hands when you're cold, and these are extra fun.
Which hand is your mouse?
Because you can flip them out, and then you can use your fingers, and then you can hide them back in there. But today we're going to have you, Farah, simulate this. And what we're doing is we're just, go ahead and, yeah, there you go. You're just going to be simulating the fact that it's a little bit more difficult to navigate on different things. And just some backstory here, as this is something that can happen to anyone. This is considered like a situational disability, a temporary disability. You're hoping it's not a long-term disability. But this actually happened to my husband. He's an engineer and he was left-handed. And he started losing feeling in his fingers. He would type letters and words and stuff, but he couldn't understand, like there was no connection. And he found out that he had a tumor in his wrist. But we didn't know that. We just thought, you know, he was having problems with his keyboard, like, oh, maybe you're just tired or something. But gradually, and then with some physical therapy and surgery, like it resolved. For him, it was temporary, but in this case, Farah, unfortunately, I think it's going to get worse for you. But so what you need to do right now is just navigate. And I'm not trying to call this website out, but this is an accessibility website, and you should think that it would be thinking about accessible people like Farah. But right now, she's going to go ahead and go here and try to go to the online courses.
Turn it to the side so you can kind of see both at the same time, just so you're not trying to,
There you go.
yeah, work backwards.
So Farah's just going to go, and she wants to check out the online courses that they have. So she's not going to use her mouse. She doesn't have.
Try to use your mouse. Go ahead. Go ahead, click that learn more button.
Yank me. The online courses?
The online courses?
For Learn More? Yes, well, I'm getting there.
You can see the mouse is kind of jumping around a little bit.
A lot.
Yeah. So then she says, okay, I'm going to stop using my mouse. I'm going to use the tab button and see if I can get to, oops, she accidentally got to
I
another
did click
page.
on it. I did click.
Look at that, you got to the certification page.
So we want the online courses. So now use your tab button and try to navigate
I still don't know
to,
where they are from looking at that thing, but
so she's got mittens on, so it's a little bit more difficult. And unfortunately, this site doesn't have focus indicators, so she doesn't even know where she
I
is
don't
on
really.
the site. I know where she is just because I can look in the bottom left corner. I've done this long enough. Like
Okay, well, let me know if
so
I'm-
she's on PALS. Long story short, she's not gonna be able to get there because she can't even drill down. This is a drill down conversation here. The online courses just to prove that they actually exist. If I take my mouse, I think they're under products maybe. Services. One of these. Yeah. Yeah, I can even
The
get-
point being, it's almost
there
impossible
we
for
go.
you to use the site with a
Under
disability.
programming, online courses. But she can't even tab to it. If she does tab to it, there's no focus indicator telling her where it is. And then once she gets there, she can't even drill down because it hasn't been designed or built with accessibility in mind. So thank you, Farah.
Thank you. Big round of applause for Farah. Thank you. Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
So this is kind of like one of those take-home points. And we'll go to the next slide there for that. But it's like, if you build it accessibly, then it wouldn't matter if Farah had problems with her mouse or with her keyboard. She would be able to get to it by just tabbing.
So how do we resolve this? First of all, you want to plan out your heading and your page structure. Make sure that everything on your page is easy to access by the keyboard and not require a mouse. You're going to want to place the most important action on the page at the top because, you know, Farah is working hard using the tab key, but a lot of people who have more severe paralysis are using a mouth stick or a head tapper, and they don't want to click through 85 tabs to get to the one most important thing on your page. So, you know, don't make them peck at their keyboard for 20 minutes to get to the important thing on the page. And use a skip link. Skip links are this handy thing. They're built into Drupal. Basically, all you have to do is not break them and test and make sure that you haven't broken them because a lot of the time people accidentally break them, including me. So what a skip link does is you'll never see it. It's like the house elf of accessibility. You won't see it unless you need it. But when you hit tab, when you enter a page, it'll pop up and say skip menu. And that allows them to jump right past the navigation onto the meat of the page so that they don't have to hear, you know, home, about, blah, 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 20 links through your menu before they can actually get to where they came to from. What they came there for.
You know what we meant.
Yeah.
All right, so now we have Melissa. So Marissa, I was calling you Melissa. Marissa is Melissa. You are 47, and you're looking great for 47, I'll just say. You've created a thriving business for yourself. You are an owner of a pottery studio. And you use a lot of online tools to help balance the budget and small business, so you're pretty familiar with technology, scheduling your employees for their shifts. So, and you love reading online about new techniques with working for clay on Pinterest. That's just what you do. So even though you're already successful at business, you're pushing your boundaries and you're working on your master's degree in fine arts online. And so you have a new online learning system that's timed with time tests. And so you need to read the material quickly and you need to answer correctly to pass. So those are the tasks that you need to do. And you also happen to have dyslexia.
So here's your art history quiz. Wait, why is it not
working? Yeah, because you pressed the button.
But, oh, right, duh, I just have to click the thing. Wait, where is it? This one. Not that one? Oh, darn it. Hold on. I broke
Live
it.
demo.
Live demo. Womp, womp, womp. Really should be this one, though. Oh, there it goes.
Okay.
All right, here's your art history quiz. You want to hazard a guess on some of those answers real quick?
So read your paragraph. So this is simulating dyslexia. Like I personally don't have dyslexia. I don't know if the images and letters are always moving constantly like that, but this is a simulation. So
Is that a library?
We'll show it in just a minute.
Yeah, it is. It is a library.
All right, now show her the other version of it.
All right, so this is not so great for you, right?
I got through one question so far.
All right, well, we can't take your dyslexia away, but we can make it a lot less of a burden. Is this easier for you to read?
The size helps. It's easier to parse from the spacing. The bullet points are very helpful. Even the formatting with the parentheses. I mean, it's still a struggle.
And we didn't pay her to say that.
Yeah, right? That's perfect.
That's perfect, yeah.
Yay!
So this is just showing that just small variations in just your layout and your spacing and like you said, the groupings. Like she hit everything. Basically, all those things. And nothing else changed. Your dyslexia is still there. We just added a few, helpful things to the layout.
So can
Go ahead.
you can
Big
bring
round
them,
of
like,
applause
clear
from the last
topography?
Sorry. Please, yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Can you, like, from that say, like, better typography or clearer typography really helps with
Yeah.
dyslexia?
Absolutely.
So one thing you can say for sure is that you're choosing a font that's inclusive. And so what that means is you're choosing a font that you know is going to help Melissa already. And so by choosing Arial font versus like a Times New Roman or something like that, you're already targeting her, and then everyone underneath her can also see it. So it's not like you're saying, oh, I'm only using this font for dyslexic people. You're just saying this font is easily read by people with dyslexia. And then we talked about things like relative units. So if you are, have visual issues, you can blow it up like you talked about in your presentation. You can blow it up as big as you want. And then that way it's helpful. But you want to do it in relative units so then everything scales versus just like one piece not, sticking out there. Margins, padding, spacing, all that kind of good stuff. And then just simply breaking it down into like little sections will help, It's still difficult, but it's not. I could do a demo there.
Yeah. Which one? Is it on the next one?
No, on the go back one.
Team Edward.
On the tab, remember the GitHub.
Which one? Oh, is it there?
Did you press it? So we were somebody was asking, here, I'll get in there.
Yeah.
Someone was asking if this was a library, and it is a library. So on github.com, I think we just didn't load up this one. This is called Lifescapes, with life with a number 1 in it, and dyslexia. And so you can add your own text. We added our own text about art history, but you could add anything else just to kind of simulate dyslexia. If you need to like convince your client, like, hey, this is the way to go. This font's easier to read, and the bullets the content's better. So this does exist, and we can send those links later.
Yes, definitely.
Is there testing available for this type of, like for dyslexia?
I know that the Wave tool will tell you if your font size is too small, which will somewhat help, but I don't think there's, as far as I don't know of any specific tool for it.
Not an automatic tool, but I think that's one of the things.
Use good.
Good judgment.
Yeah, use good judgment.
So there's another font that's called Open Dyslexic. A lot of people, we have a link for that too. And this is a targeted font just for dyslexia, but I would caution you in using it. You can see, so part of the problem with dyslexia is that letters and numbers get easily switched around. So things like a D and a B, right? If they're mirror images of each other, then if you think about it, if you have dyslexia, then that'd be easier to flip around. So what you're choosing is a font that's got enough of a little bit of a lip or a little bit difference, like a little serif or a little bit stands out. So then you can't do mirror opposites, P's and Q's. Think about P's and Q's. Ones, L's, lowercase ones, lowercase L's, and I's, yeah, and uppercase I's. If they all look the same, then that's not the right font for you, because somebody might not know if that's a number or a letter or what it is, an L and I. So you're looking for fonts that are a little bit helpful like that. So this one right here, this is supposed to be targeted for people with dyslexia, but the research that we both read said that it's better just to stick with something basic like Arial.
Yeah, this has been heavily disproven. So if anybody tells you, hey, use Open Dyslexic, don't use it.
And a lot of times people who have visual issues like this will have their own setup on their browsers already with their own fonts that they want to preload and stuff like that. So for the most part, they're probably okay. But again, if you're just choosing a font, off the bat, just look for those things, those mirror opposites. You want to avoid mirror opposites.
One thing I was going to add to your question, it's not exactly specific, but a lot of testing sites allow you to have a qualifier question. So you could have usertesting.com or something like that and just ask if someone is dyslexic, and then only those participants will apply. So it might take a little longer to get your test, but I'm sure there's enough that you could still get some good results.
That's a good idea. Yeah, there's nothing like using real disabled people. And please pay them. That's a big part of the disability community when they talk about doing user testing, is they say, well, people want me to volunteer my time as a disabled person. And they say, well, you're helping you and your community, so you should just do this for me for free. No, they're providing a valuable service, so please pay them appropriately for their work. Our next persona, and I think last?
Yes.
Yes, our last persona is Edward Moss. Edward, come on up.
Team Edward.
Hey, Edward!
So, as a side note, I was having codeine-induced hallucinations about vampires last week when I had the flu, so that's why this became Edward.
Pop up.
So, a little side note.
I was going to take the wheelchair ramp if I was in a wheelchair.
You're not in a wheelchair. Edward has loved to build websites since middle school. He's always had a natural talent with code, especially back-end development. He primarily works in Drupal and loves Drupal 8 because it's so much more convenient for him to use. Despite being great at building websites and knowing all the ins and outs of his assistive tech, there's still a lot online that even a pro like him can't access. He's always considered himself a social guy, and he's got a pretty serious relationship going on with his smartphone. Please make sure Edward doesn't die. He loves social media and spends a lot of his idle time on Facebook and Twitter. While most of his friends are pretty good about adding alternative text on their posts for him, a lot of the people and companies he follows on Twitter tend to forget. He wants to stay up to date and included, but the popularity of posting all text memes and other picture-based posts blocks him from being included.
So we knew Mike would cheat, so we've made him wear the goggles that are simulating blindness. So it's pretty dark. It's pretty dark in there, so please don't fall asleep.
All right, so demo time.
So for this demo, what we're going to do is we're going to simulate what it's going to be like with him going on Twitter and wanting to participate in a conversation just like you do. So the first one, let's go to the next slide. So here, we're going to read it to you. We're going to be your screen reader today.
Okay.
He has my vote, election day. And then there's an image, but there's no alt text.
So what do you think is happening in that image right now?
It's a politician who is going to get voted for by the person who tweeted that.
So Abdul, this is who he is.
All right, so Abdul is voting for Abdul's favorite politician.
All right. So now everyone else in the room is going to get to see this picture. And if you want, you can help Edward find out what's going on in this image. You grab your phone and tweet an alternative text for this to hashtag FLDCA11Y.
Or you can raise your hand.
That might be, that's way easier. Yeah, let's do that. You can raise your hand.
What's a good alt text for this image, you think?
Good puppy.
Raise your hand. All right, Wes.
Dog in front of a sign that says, "Say no to vacuums."
All right.
All right.
Dog sitting happy dog sitting next to sign that says Thor Michelson says no to vacuums.
That's pretty good.
Anybody else?
I think they pretty much covered it.
So, do you feel like you have a better idea of what this image is now?
Absolutely. It's a funny meme with a dog.
It is a funny meme with the dog. And you can take off your glasses too. Thanks, Edward.
So now you can look at this and let us know, is that pretty much what you had in mind from the alternative text?
No.
So the trick with alternative text, a couple things, like you don't want to say like photo of, image of, like they already know it's going to be an image because of the markup. It's already telling them, hey, this is an image. So you want to be descriptive, and you want to be, but you don't want to be overtly descriptive. Like if I did a paragraph, like 10 lines long about this picture, would be annoying to have to sit through, okay, happy dog, German Shepherd with his tongue hanging out, panting, buy a sign that said, you know, like, and go into all those details. That's a little overboard.
Thank you.
But just think of it, you know, somebody told me once that it's like, if you had a phone conversation, if I'm calling you and I'm saying, hey, there's a dog outside my front yard and it's hilarious, it's in front of the sign that says vote for me, you know, or something like that. Just so think about it, like, how would you describe it to someone you were talking to on the phone?
And a good guideline for the length is think of it like a tweet. Like as if you were going to tweet what you're seeing with as much detail as possible without Twitter telling you to shut up.
Yeah.
Oh, the demo.
No, this one.
What?
Is that with 140 characters or 280?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, right, the new one. Oh, no, why didn't you do that? I was trying to click
So
on
these are
noise.
the different things that we do to resolve it. So again, on Twitter specifically, we want to make sure that we set up our settings to automatically allow you to, because unfortunately Twitter doesn't do it out of the box. You have to go to Twitter and you have to go to your settings and you have to, and she's going to show us how we do this here, how to make that a default thing for you instead of whatever. And there's also, we'll show in a second, place where you can follow and they will yell at you when you don't add your image descriptions. And I just did this today with Damien's presentation. I've been taking snaps of people when I go to their presentations today and I'm adding them and whatever. And I was really good about adding alt text to the images, and you know, I do accessibility, so I should know better, but like even I'm like in a hurry and I don't do it right away, and then it yelled at me and I said, oh shit, and then I wrote down the thing that I thought that I should write. So you're showing yours?
Yes, they do. They really hide it pretty hard. You go into settings and then all the way at the bottom, nested in a thing, there's this accessibility setting. And you need to go in here and turn it on. And then you can save that. And now it's turned on for you forever. I don't know why you have to turn it on, but that's just the deal.
Go to my account real quick and then you can see the issue that I had.
Okay.
I just saw somebody yesterday getting called out for that on Slack.
So yeah, there you go. So various different platforms have different settings and you have to find them sometimes. But if you scroll down a little bit, you can see this. I did this on purpose for the demo, just kidding. Right here, Damien, I said I'm supporting the rabbit ears, and then I forgot to caption it. Let's see if I press it here. I should show it in just a second. Where'd it go? Maybe I have to press this.
Yeah, click the comment thing.
I don't want to, but I don't want to comment, so I'm not logged
click
in.
on the date for the timestamp, yeah.
There we go. Did it again. Live demo. Yeah, there we go. So at please caption, it says, hey, please add alt text to your images next time. And I'm like, okay, I know better. But if I was logged in and I had this, what it would do before I sent my tweet is there's just a little thing that says add description.
Yeah, there's a little black box you can fill in.
Go ahead.
For on a different platform sort of thing, Buffer, if you use Buffer to time out your tweets, they have a browser extension that you can add that will allow you to write alt text for your images.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So depending on what you're using,
Nice.
yeah, we talked about that in the past, which is great. It's and someone told me about it too because I hadn't heard about it. So there's all these like ins and outs of things. Like even if you're like an accessibility guru, there's still like things that escape you. Like these things should just be automatically in place, but.
I learn something literally every time I present. Someone raises their hand and gives me another good tool, and I'm like, yes. So,
go back to the last one.
The last one? This one?
Yep. Okay, done. So yeah. So now we have to just put it on the right one.
Oh yeah, how about that? I should probably make it so you can see it.
Where is your mouse?
I know, it's annoying.
So we're just going to leave you today. We kind of rambled a little bit. We're trying out a new format here and kind of getting you into the shoes of somebody and thinking beyond just, you know, it's easy to look at your coworker and think, oh, that's the person using the website. But when you think of personas and you have these ideas of who's actually using your website, it's varied and vast, and we've just touched a tiny bit of that. And our hope today is just that you think about it a little bit more inclusively. So it shouldn't, web accessibility shouldn't be an extra frill or something that we want to do to be charitable to unfortunate disabled people. It's about quality and user experience. So you're a good example that you always say is like if a contractor installed a doorbell in your house that somebody had to be 6 feet tall to press, you wouldn't be okay with that. You wouldn't pay them for that work. So creating a website that only certain bodies can use means that it hasn't been built correctly. Website accessibility should not just be a box you check off. When you deliver a new website to the client, it's a way of rethinking your design and development process where you go beyond just the base level to access to information. Website accessibility should be about making something valuable, not just accessible to as many people as possible. And this is the quote from the founder of the websites of the world here.
Oh, me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The power of the web is in its universality. Access by everyone, regardless of disability, is an essential aspect. And that's by Tim Berners-Lee. And thank you all so much for coming and for participating. Give another big hand for our participants today. Thank you so much for coming out. I know we're at 3:59, so if anybody has a 1-minute question. Yes.
I have just a general accessibility question that I've been kind of like wondering about. So I've seen like there's media queries now that do like you can say prefers reduced motion. Have you seen those?
I have not, but that sounds awesome. Is that for the parallax people who get seasick?
Yeah, for the people who like don't want to, might have epilepsy or something like that. So there's a new media query that says prefer reduced motion, but I was thinking it would be like super neat if there were similar things that say like prefer large text, prefer high contrast, and there's even like stuff now like they're talking about doing like low bandwidth and stuff like that. I don't know. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that because I've also heard the argument that we shouldn't do that because it should always be that way. But I'm also kind of a realist that it's not always that way.
Yeah, there's definitely a struggle, because designers tend to want to sometimes design things in a way that isn't accessible, and we can be at odds. Like I've definitely heard from designers like, in design hierarchy, visual hierarchy, you want to use this light text on this light background. And I'm like, okay, but it doesn't pass contrast testing. And they're like, yeah, but it looks really good, and that's really in right now.
30.
Yeah, so balancing that need that designers sometimes have, or your client sometimes has, and you can't sway them with the needs of others, I think that's a great opportunity. And it's been discussed before, having media queries like that. It's just, it hasn't.
But I guess the question really comes down to, do you want to put that on the client? Do you want to make them responsible for having to do those things on their their browser and set all the fonts that they want and their, or should that be something that we just provide to them as an option or an easy way to do that? So
ideally you do it right for everyone from the first time.
But we'd be happy for you guys just to like add some of these things. I mean, that's kind of like a stretch goal, right? So you have these things that are easily attainable, and then maybe as you progress in your development, that might be something that you could offer later too. So
yeah, but if you're locked in with a client that's like, I want this, it's good to have a fallback if you really need it. Anybody else?
I have a question about drop-down menus in navigation, just sort of a general accessibility question. Do you have to listen to all of the sublinks within each category, or can you just get the high-level categories?
It depends on how it's built.
So it's possible.
Yeah.
If you have it display none until there's focus there, it won't read anything that's display none. But if you have it where it hits focus and then all of those things are displayed, they will have to tab through all of them.
There's different ways. Yeah. I mean, there's different patterns. I built an accessibility style guide with pattern library like that. And so it's got one example of a drop-down navigation. And so what you can do is you can skip. So if you're going down and then you get the subcategories, you can go like to the right to skip to the next item. So there's different ways to kind of get around it. And there's also, you have that easily, like on any website, you have the skip to main content as we talked about. But you can also have different ones that say skip navigation or skip to navigation. So there's different ways you can skip to places on the site if you want to get, very personalized. So again, we'd be happy if you just left the skip to content link in there and didn't remove it out of Drupal. It's right out of the box. So
yeah, but those drop-down menus can be they can
It's one of
become hairballs.
the holy
Yeah.
grails. It's sort of like forms for accessibility. It's very difficult to do. You have to purposefully work at it. You can't just pick something random.
I feel like we could do a whole session just on drop-down menus.
And forms.
And forms, oh God. Wes.
So like these fancy things,
What are you looking at?
like a phone.
Okay.
Phone,
Give me the alt text.
my shorts.
Yeah.
So like what are the like so like do blind people?
They do?
Yeah.
Okay, how does that work? Like motor impairment or blind? Like what are the kind of? Is it really that?
Well,
different?
yeah, there's a screen reader built into your phone.
Sure.
If you're on an iPhone, it's VoiceOver. If you're on Android, you've also got a screen reader. And a lot of blind people will have like an earbud in, and they're listening to the screen reader on the phone. For motor impairment, try to make sure that anything someone needs to click is at least 45 by 45.
And has a lot of padding around it so they're not accidentally touching other buttons.
But how do the blind person with the headphone? How do they navigate? Like is there like a tab button somewhere that I've never seen? Or like,
Well, there's part of you can run your finger over the screen and it'll read whatever you're touching.
okay,
So,
cool.
and it's amazingly fast. Like the reading, I can't keep up. It's like it's like an auctioneer reading, but
No.
When that's
You
your-
learn to pick out the pieces that you're looking for. Like if you're hearing like for a menu or skip or, there's certain things that you're listening for too. So it's faster. But again, we're two-sighted people. So,
so to us it sounds really fast, but
yeah.
when that's how you listen, I'm sure it's a lot easier.
All right. Well, if you need to find us on Twitter, there we are if you have follow-up questions. But thank you.
Thanks, everyone!
Get some music on in preparation for the lightning talks.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
We did good on time.
I thought.
Not to go too